Thank you. This is a 10-minute session. I'm delighted to tell you about Hyperion Fund. The Hyperion Fund is an ICO that's happening in the next couple of months to raise funds to invest in solar energy. So you make money while you save the world. That's the idea for the investors. So renewables are a good thing. It's at the heart of the world's aspirations for a better future. Despite Donald Trump, the Paris Climate Agreement will survive, and nearly every country accepts that moving away from fossil fuels is a good thing. And solar and wind are going to help the world have a cleaner environment. It will change the lives of billions of people who have no electricity. It'll create new jobs, and it'll solve a lot of pollution issues that we have. It's a good time now to invest in solar because the solar install base is expanding at an enormous rate. New records in 2016 of 160 gigawatts, that's 160,000 megawatts, were added to the wind and solar capacity in the world, which is extraordinary. Solar contributed about half of that. And about half of that again was in China. The rest of the world did the other half. And it's projected to reach over 390,000 megawatts by 2017. So it's a good thing, and it's growing rapidly. The key drivers for solar growth are more demand, more penetration into distributed environments like off-grid and microgrid environments. Governments offer incentives through power purchase agreements. That is, they agree to buy the power from solar farms at a fixed price for 20 years, typically. And that's in most of the emerging markets. And blockchain. So the way I see it is that blockchain solves two problems, but it's going to solve a problem in terms of funding solar farms, and it's going to give investors a transparent way of investing in those solar projects. Solar projects are getting cheaper. The panels a solar panel has actually dropped in price by a factor of 5 over the last 5 years. The cost of building a solar project or a solar farm is much lower today than it was 5 years ago. There are new markets all the time, the emerging countries, the Indonesian countries, the Middle Eastern countries. So we're looking at not only the developed countries, but the emerging markets. That's a stat there from one of the biggest panel providers, JV Solar. And you can see the growth in solar, both in the past and projected into the future. So I come from a company called Shannon Energy, which we've been developing solar projects for the last 5 years, focused in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, with fixed tariffs. A PPA is a power purchase agreement. So we developed projects, for example, in hot areas, where the sun shines, not like today in London, but in places like South Africa, where that shows, well, this was 5 years ago, it cost over 400 million to build a solar project of about 160 megawatts. To do that now would be about half that price. This is what it looks like. For those of you who've never seen a solar farm, this is literally hundreds of thousands of panels, each panel the size of a door, laid out on the ground and converting the sunshine into energy. The sun produces as much power in a day as the world needs in a year, so we should be trapping and converting more of it. So our story and our challenges over the last several years in building solar farms have predominantly been around funding, dealing with banks, I think you'd all agree with me on that, equity partners, and securing debt funding. This is where every project you have to negotiate with many, many potential partners, and you only end up with one. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. There are lots of local issues, language, customs, bureaucracy, getting licenses. In order to get a power purchase agreement, you have to identify the land, you have to do your environmental studies, you have to do all of that and get your grid connection and then get your PPA. So that's the work we've been doing in the past, and then the funding begins. But the main issue that we've had is the time it's taken to get projects which have been properly PPA'd and getting them to the construction stage. It's in that middle bit, and that's where Hyperion comes in. So Hyperion, to me, is a much better way of generating scale and generating a much faster adoption of solar projects around the world. So what's different about Hyperion? I'm relatively new to ICOs, and I'm discovering how blockchain is going to benefit and change the way we fund projects like this into the future. So in Hyperion, we have a clear business model. We have an addressable market. We've got a portfolio of projects ready to go right now. They're ready to go and ready to start building. And we've got a lot of experience in the team. I wouldn't have joined it if I didn't believe that we could actually do this. So the business model is for us to take the Hyperion fund and invest it in power purchase agreements. These are the projects that have been, they're shovel ready or they're ready to be built. We can build, you can build a solar farm at a rate of somewhere between 5 megawatts and 10 megawatts per month. So it's relatively quick to build it. It's not hard to build. You're basically putting panels on the ground and pointing them at the sun and converting the direct current into AC using inverters and connecting it to the grid. So, and providing the power. So it's fairly simple. I was in the software industry for a long time, and this is much easier. So the Hyperion token then, which is the ICO, is happening next month and the month after. And each token is backed by 1 watt of a solar project's capacity. And a watt, as we all know, will produce about 1.7 kilowatt hours per year. And thus, this will create a return on the token based upon the power that that watt produces of about 1.13, which is a good return. So we're issuing 103 million tokens at half a cent per token. And the multiplication then is the number of watts per token, and that will have increase every year as long as we're increasing our projects. So there's 2 streams of revenue for the token holder. The stream of revenue that's generated by the power in the underlying watts. And then our plan is to sell the projects when they're in construction. And it's much easier to sell a power project when it is constructed and when it's producing money than beforehand. So when it's producing money and it's up and running for several months, then it's of interest to long-term investments like pension funds who are in a world of decreasing yields. The pension funds and similar are always looking for performing assets, but they're conservative, so they only want to take, they don't want to take project risk or construction risk. They want to buy into assets when they are actually producing money. So our plan is to sell those projects and continue to invest in new ones, and at all times have a portfolio of performing projects. So we fundraise, we select the projects to build, we select the equipment suppliers, probably mostly Chinese panels, we select the company to build it, we prepare for construction, we construct and the installation begins, and then we're at commencement of delivery, COD, which is step 6. Then the revenue starts to flow from the power, and then we sell within a year or 2. So the Hyperion team is led by Greg Thane, who is a very experienced IPO expert. He's had a financial background, and his kind of motto is that we've got to, I mean, I've heard a lot of kind of scary things about ICOs, and they're not regulated and all this kind of stuff. Our attitude is that we've got to treat this as if it was an IPO, because regulation is coming down the line, and personally I'd be delighted to see more regulation, because it gives our investors more confidence and comfort in investing in this project. So we have an advisory board. We're going to have about 9 people on it. These are the first 3, and they come from specialist areas in solar, finance, and in, how am I doing? Diamonds? Okay. So the legal structure, I'll come back to that. So we've delivered a lot of projects in the past. We have a portfolio of projects ready to go in Kazakhstan, in Iran, and in the Dominican Republic. So we are ready to build 100 megawatts this year. This is the timeline, and thank you very much.